conference on biodiversity, climate change and sustainable agriculture towards food security. Let us begin our today's program by seeking the blessings of Almighty. May I now request you all to rise up for invocation and Arasarvarthal by Dr. K. Rajesh, Assistant Professor, Department of Music.
கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராகும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் வணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பியந்து செயல்பருந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே 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 தில்லைப்பதியுடைய சிற்றம்பலம் தன்னில் அல்லும் பகலும் நின்று ஆடுகின்றார் எல்லைக்கள் அண்ணாமலை அமைத்த கடை கழகம் கண்ணார கண்டு கழித்து நில்லாத செல்வத்தை நிலைக்க செய்தான் நீங்காத கலை புரட்சி நிரம்ப செய்தான் கல்லாத இனமெல்லாம் கத்த வைத்தான் காணாத பெரும் கடகம் கடத்து வைத்தான் இல்லாத புலவர்களை இருப்போராக்கி இணையாத தமிழ் புகழை ஈட்டிக் கொண்டான் வெல்லாத செயலில்லை என்று போற்ற விளங்கிய வன்மன் அண்ணாமலையன் வாழ்க மணி காட்டும் கோபுரம் போல் உயர்ந்த நெஞ்சும் மலை காட்டும் அகலம் போல் விரிந்த நோக்கும் பணி காட்டும் திருக்குறளில் படிந்த வாழ்வும் பதவியெல்லாம் படிப்போல கடந்த பாங்கும் அணி காட்டும் தாமரையாள் அடைந்த மார்பும் அறையுமே உறவாக அணைக்கும் கையும் பிணி காட்டும் மருத்துவன் போல் பேணுவல்பும் பெற்ற தமிழ் முத்தையவள் பெரியோன் வாழ்க பெற்ற தமிழ் முத்தையவள் பெரியோன் வாழ்க பெற்ற தமிழ் ராமசுவாமி பெரியோன் வாழ்க பெற்ற தமிழ் ராமசுவாமி பெரியோன் வாழ்க.
Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture, Faculty of Agriculture. At the outset, I would like to welcome our most distinguished and honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Aram Kabiresan. He is an eminent teacher, world-renowned researcher, and able administrator. This Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture is envisaged by our Vice Chancellor. He is Sir is more concerned about the development and growth of the activities of the center. Without our Vice Chancellor's support and inspiration, this center would not be seen the light of the day. On behalf of the organizing committee, my own behalf, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. I welcome our prestigious chief guest, Through A.S. Marimuthu, It's a proud moment for us. One of our agriculture graduate has become IFS officer and serving to the nation, especially biodiversity conservation. Amid his busy schedule, he has consented to be a chief guest for today's event. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our beloved Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, who has been supporting our center in all the ways and means. I welcome you, madam. I also take this opportunity to welcome our keynote speakers, Dr. M. Sandil Kumar, Director of Research, Central Coffee Research Institute, Chikmagalur District, Karnataka, and Professor S. Thirumani, Professor Head, Department of Plant Breeding and Genetics, Badankava Karekal, who has readily accepted our invitation and amidst their busy schedule, I welcome you both of you, sir. I welcome deans of various faculties, directors of various centers, and I welcome the finance officer, I welcome the heads of the department, I welcome all the delegates, both who have showed keen interest towards this conference to share and gain knowledge. I wholeheartedly welcome you all. I welcome the learned faculty members. I welcome my good friend Professor Seraman and my good friend Dr. T. Shaktivel, Principal Scientist, Indian Institute of Horticultural Research, Bangalore. I welcome the media persons. I welcome the Personal Secretary to Vice Chancellor and other officials from the Administrative Office. On behalf of the organizing committee, my own behalf, once again I welcome one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Light fades away the dark.
Correct. Sir. Sir, sir. Sir. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We now invite our director, CNFSA and conference convener, Dr. R. Raman, to honor our chief guest, Mr. A.S. Marimuthu, IFS, Conservator of Forest, Viluppuram Circle.
Thank you, sir. We now invite Dr. Vanilla, Associating Scientist, CNFSA and Conference Coordinator, to honor our beloved Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. A. Angekar.
Thank you, ma'am. We now invite Dr. S. Srinivasan, Associating Scientist, CNFSA and Conference Coordinator, to honor a keynote speaker, Dr. M. Sendil Kumar, Director of Research, Central Coffee Research Institute, Chikmagalur, Karnataka. Thank you, sir. May I now request our beloved Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. A. Agriculturetowards, to deliver the presidential address.
Good morning to all. on behalf of the Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture and my own behalf, I would like to welcome our most honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. R.M. Kadarasan. Welcome, sir. I would also like to welcome Mr. A.S. Marimuthu, IFS, Conservator of Forest, Villupuram Circle, Dr. M. Sandhukumar, Director of Research, Central Coffee Research Institute, Chikmagalur, Karnataka, and Dr. S. Tirumeni, Professor and Head Department of Genetics and Plant Breeding, who is here to deliver the keynote address in this International Conference on Biodiversity, Climate Change and Sustainable Agriculture towards Food Security. Biodiversity is being the need of the hour, and it is nothing but the variation and the variability of organisms living in this planet, starting from a single-celled microorganism to the largest mammal on Earth. There is a sort of interaction between all these organisms, and this actually forms the natural ecosystem. But if the chain breaks at some point, at a point in time, what happens is the entire ecosystem is collapsed. So biodiversity is actually the life support system of the Earth, of the planet Earth, where we human beings live. So this is the importance of biodiversity. And what is the function of biodiversity? The main function of biodiversity is to maintain the purity and the quality of air and soil, distribution of water, and maintain the associated biodiversity like the microorganisms, etc., without which nothing can function on this planet, the Earth. So this is the main role of biodiversity. At the same time, you know, biodiversity actually maintains the carbon emissions, reduces the carbon emissions, and also reduces the impact of natural hazards that happen on this Earth. So what causes the loss in biodiversity or a decline in biodiversity? Farming and agricultural methods we follow, as well as the industrial practices, all these cause a decline in biodiversity. So our main aim is to look into all these, try to promote technological innovations to rural areas, and actually create an awareness among the rural people on the importance of biodiversity. So there is, for example, as far as the rural people are concerned, farming is the main practice that they follow, in addition to other aquaculture, fish culture, etc. But we must actually educate them on the importance of biodiversity by telling them how much of pollution is actually reducing the biodiversity or creating a decline in biodiversity. So for example, in Haryana, they have actually created one sort of a juhad. The vehicle is called the juhad. This vehicle actually has a 5 horsepower engine alone, and it is only made out of all these discarded parts like car tires, airplane tires, etc. So it actually travels at the rate of only 5 miles per hour. In Haryana, it was banned by the automobile dealers and automobile producers. But however, in Madhya Pradesh, this could not happen because there is no pollution at all, because it cannot be claimed as a luxury vehicle that causes pollution also. So this jihad is mainly used for carrying farm produce from the point of production to the market. So it also carries children to school and also carries old people to hospitals and other places. So this type of rural technology is being followed there, which causes reduction in the rate of pollution. In addition to that, our students have participated in a competition wherein they have to give ideas for startups. Our students, two teams have participated, and both the teams have won the competition. They have moved to the next level. One is producing cold storage at the point of production itself, and the other one is actually reducing the impact of mediators in between, that is from the point of production to the point of, that is to the market. There is only one intermediary, that is the startup, people who are involved in the startup, who buy the produce and sell it to the market, so they will get good returns, so that the farmers will get good returns. This is one of the most important point, and both the teams have won in the start. They have moved to the next level, and they're waiting to actually give more on this particular area about the startup. So we are really proud of our students. The government alone cannot do everything to reduce biodiversity loss, which is interconnected with climate change and food security. So it starts from the plate from which we take food. We have to reduce, reuse and recycle. We have to reduce use of fertilizers and pesticides, reuse or compost waste materials and use it for agricultural purposes, and also recycle whatever can be recycled, and use only organic products, or buy only organic products wherever it is possible. So these are the important things which we can follow to reduce biodiversity. To reduce biodiversity loss. So this biodiversity loss can also be curtailed by different methods. So first thing is providing good telecommunication facilities to the farmers, providing weather forecasting facilities so that they will be able to plan accordingly and then fetch a good price for their own market, for their own produce, and at the same time also produce transport facilities to the rural areas. And the most important thing would be cold storage and warehouses also. Cold storage can provide or reduce wastage also. So we must also ensure that food production is climate smart, so that we get the farmers get a very good market for their produce without any loss. So we must deploy all nature-based solutions to rehabilitate artificial ecosystem. So wherever there is an artificial ecosystem, it must be substituted by natural ecosystems. So I'm really very proud that the Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture has organized this international conference on biodiversity, climate change and sustainable agriculture towards food security. Food security is first an important point to be considered, and this should be followed by nutritional security. This food security is the plant and animal species have become endangered species. About 1 million plant and animal species have become endangered, and within a decade most of them will be lost, and I'm sure that we will be facing a very critical situation, especially after this COVID 2019. So I congratulate the organizers, since this particular topic is the need of the hour, and I wish that this 2-day seminar, the deliberations of this 2-day seminar will be useful for all of the participants, and all the participants will carry an important message for the way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We are privileged to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, who is the crux in establishing the Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture at Faculty of Agriculture, to deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning, all of you. Respected and beloved Dean Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. Agirkani, beloved colleague, Dr. R. Raman, Director, Center for Natural Farming and Sustainable Agriculture, respected and beloved Conservator of Forests, Mr. Marvinto, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Dr. Golan Raman, Dr. Agirkani, and all the main architects coordinating with Dr. Raman in organizing this conference, deans of faculties, heads of the departments, professors, teaching colleagues from Annamalai University, learned delegates who have come all the way to participate in this 2-day seminar, my dear student friends. I could see quite a lot of students friends here, almost maybe around 2/3 of the hall is with the students. It's a good rejuvenation point for me, because I could talk something about a subject which I have been dealing for more than 36 years, because for the past 1.5 years I've been talking about anything and everything which is away from the subject. And now I could say something about what I have been talking about in the previous years. This biodiversity, climate change and sustainable agriculture. And people now talk about high-fee science, which has the scope to attract many funding, which will have the scope to get a good impact factor when it is published. That way, of course, biotechnology rules the world, in spite of the fact what has been transferred to the field in agriculture from biotechnology is almost nothing. But in spite of that fact, biotechnology rules the science world because it has got a good scope for enormous funding and having publications with good impact factor. But of course, this is a field, biodiversity, climate change and sustainable agriculture, which has a direct impact and scope for more of a translational research rather than transcriptional research. Translational research in the sense, whatever you do, it gets transmitted to the end user, namely the farming community or somebody who will be benefited directly. But there is quite a lot to talk about, and it's really an important topic to discuss, deliberate, and then enumerate the strategies to follow. Let me go in the reverse order, because the Dean has talked something about biodiversity, let me start from biodiversity. Biodiversity conservation, I am happy the conservator of forests is here. And there are only 3 big threats to agriculture in future in the whole of the world. The first one is land use pattern. There is going to be change in land use pattern, and that will be a threat because more of lands are getting converted to domestic housing sites and industrial sites, and less will be available for agriculture. And not only that, different other avenues are cropping in, and less will be available for agriculture. Land use pattern change is the biggest threat considered as of now. The second one is what you call as invasive alien species. Those which are not native and those who behave with an invasive behavior, occupying the habitats that are prone for very good farming practice, they are called as invasive alien species. So that is considered to be the second largest threat. And the third largest threat is going to be the availability of a very important resource for agriculture, that is water. Water use in agriculture. For example, in the whole of the world, 70% of fresh water available is used for agriculture and 20% by industries and 10% for municipalities for domestic consumption. Being the biggest consumer of water, and people say if at all there is going to be next world war, that will be because of sharing water resources. So water is going to be an important resource, and water use efficiency is being talked about. And in India is a very biggest consumer of water, in the sense here India has 18% of world population, but it has got only 4% of world's water resource. And out of this 4% of world's water resource, again 70% is used by agriculture. And what segment of water contributes more is posing an imminent threat. The groundwater potential. Say for example, you may not believe there are about 20 million tube wells in India. 20 million tube wells in India. and there are about 5,000 dams constructed across rivers and other water catchment areas. So with this, we are consuming the biggest segment of water available for the country. And when we are using the underground water to the greatest possible extent, 20 million tube wells, the availability of water is going to be another big threat for agriculture. And if underground water depletes, then our entire agriculture will be at very great risk. And you may well appreciate the whole economy of this developing nation, which is going to be a superpower in the world in very near future, thrives on agriculture. As I said, we have got 18% of world population with less than 4% of water resources and less than 3% of geographic area. We support 18% of world population by food production. So water use is going to be another risk. And I was talking about biodiversity, invasive alien species, and there are so many important species that has come up. Mr. Marimuthu may very well appreciate Chromolina moderator, Eupatorium adenophorum, Mimosa rubicalis, and in water resources too, Iconia crassipus, Salvinia molesta, and many other things. For example, how biodiversity is at threat. I'll give you an example. In the northeastern parts of India, in Assam and Darjeeling and other areas, you know, tea plantations are higher and they are on the slopes, and soil erosion is the biggest threat for tea plantation and other plantation crops in the hilly slopes. And to conserve soil from erosion, they use what are called as cover crops that grow close to the ground with roots tying up the soil particles, preventing them from erosion. And people or scientists, they have to be very careful. Once they saw a plant called Mimosa rubicalis, which is exotic in nature, which grows close to the ground, and they introduced this plant from Central Asia as a cover crop in Darjeeling and Assam, tea plantations of Darjeeling and Assam. That is about 15 to 20 years back. And normally, in the evolution of an invasive alien plant, normally we used to say 5 E's: entry, escape, establishment, entrenchment, and explosion. 5 E's. Initially, when you introduce a plant from outside the country, it may not pose a threat. It will behave very normally, very docile, and it will accustom itself to the natural habitat, and then it will improve its seed production or reproductive potential. Then after some time, it will come out of the area where it is introduced, and then suddenly it will explode as a threat. So that has happened with regard to Mimosa rubicalis. Mimosa rubicalis has now come into Kaziranga Sanctuary, which is the site for harboring single-horned rhinos. Many of us may not know, single-horned rhinos are exclusive herbivores, vegetarians. They don't eat anything other than a plant. And what is the problem? Mimosa rubicalis has thorns on its surface. So when Mimosa rubicalis takes the entire area, suppressing the other native vegetation, single-horned rhinos are not able to feed on them because they have thorns. And now the entire forest department is crossing its fingers how to control Mimosa rubicalis, because it is an endangered site where you cannot use a chemical, and using machinery is also a problem. Labor is very intensive, and there is no way that we can control Mimosa rubicalis. This has happened with so many other invasive alien plants or invasive alien weeds. For example, Prosopis juliflora. It was introduced in the year 1896 and 2010 And by the time it was introduced in 1910, not 2010, 1910, the title given to the plant was Royal Tree, because it was imported by the Viceroy or Governor General of Madras Province, writing a letter requesting the Queen Elizabeth to give the seeds of Prosopis juliflora to India. So the tree was named as Royal Tree. But now what has happened is, in Gujarat, every year Prosopis juliflora expands by more than 55 square kilometers. Every year it expands by 55 square kilometers. And nearly around 1.2% of the geographic area of India is occupied by Prosopis. And people are just wondering how to bring it under control. So many fertile lands are being, so initially it will form a thicket in the center, and the thicket will extend so that the land becomes totally untenable for cultivation. That is the problem with Prosopis juliflora. The same is the case with Iconia cascus and Salvinia mollusta. And you know, water I was telling is a scarce resource. And from a plain surface, with a surface infested with water hyacinth, the water loss is increased by 9 times. 9 times higher water loss. And it also acts as a host for the vectors of diseases. And it ends up in eutrophication. So on and so forth. Water hyacinth. Similarly, Salvinia mollusta. So these are all the threat to biodiversity. And when we go on poaching on trees, native trees, that is why in earlier days, every part of our culture, every part of our heritage has some sort of science. And if you look at the temples, they have what are called as sthala-vrikshas. And why do they have sthala-vrikshas? It is a part of, it's a type of biodiversity conservation. If you say that the tree is sacred, nobody will cut it. Otherwise, they will go on cutting the tree, felling the tree. That is why it is called as sthala-vriksha. So biodiversity conservation is something important we need to have. And not only that, see, there is as I told, it's a high-key science, and people are more bothered about, more attracted towards populistic research. And now medicinal plants is a very attractive focus. And people start working on medicinal plants. And when they go on, see, medicinal plant, one thing I will tell you, if you cultivate a medicinal plant, it will not behave as a medicinal plant. A medicinal plant has to be taken from the original habitat. It has to go, say for example, the plant under stress will have more of phenols. So that is why it behaves medicinal. When you take the plant out and when you put it in a medium and then give nitrogen, water, everything, the phenolic content may not be there. So it will not behave as a medicinal plant. So medicinal plant has to be in its original habitat. You can research upon how best to make it into a... And another thing, I have been working on isolation of active principles. In most cases, active principles will be less active compared to a complex, crude, natural material. You take for example, an extract of neem seed will be more effective than azadirachtin or nimbin or nimbicidine. Because it is a combination of nimbin, nimbicidine and azadirachtin that is active. And it is not only azadirachtin or nimbin or nimbicidine that is active. So in most of the medicinal plants, it is a crude material that is active than the active principle. So it is better we research how to formulate the crude material in a modern form as old wine in a new bottle, so that we get the benefit out of it instead of trying to cultivate it, instead of trying to improve the acreage under the medicinal plants, instead of trying to isolate the active principle and making a patent and enriching our seed. So that is with regard to biodiversity and again sustainable climate change. People, as I said, populistic research. Climate change, whenever we refer to climate change, people talk about CO2 concentration. and CO2 concentration is not going to be of any impact in agriculture in tropical countries. But whereas climate change has an impact on fluctuating monsoon pattern, rainfall pattern, and fluctuating temperatures, and that is going to be of more significance rather than an increased CO2 as the Westerners do. We blindly follow what the West do in research. Say for example, I have a data with what is available in Annamalai or in the Kaveri Delta. If a particular year has more than 10% of annual precipitation, that year is supposed to be a wet year. And we have considered segments of 10 years right from 1980, and in 1980 to 1990, that 10-year segment had only 2 wet years, whereas 2000 to 2010 or 2010 to 2020, we had 5 wet years, where the annual rainfall, again, the annual rainfall in this region has increased by 250 millimeters. When I started studying base agriculture in the year 1980, it was approximately 1200 millimeter annual rainfall. But now it is 1500 millimeter annual rainfall. 250 millimeter increase. Whereas, don't look at the rainfall or monsoon alone. That is the credit. We need to look at the debit also. Evaporation. Evaporation has decreased by 450 millimeters. So increase in credit and decrease in debit. That means there is more of rainwater available. In other words, it is more of flash floods and wet years. And when there is more of flash floods, say for example, the monsoon extends. Normally here it is the second monsoon, northeast monsoon, that is between October to December. And all our ancestors have programmed Samba rice to end up in December end or January. But what has happened? The rainfall monsoon has shifted and it extends up to February, January end and February, washing away the relay crop of black gram and green gram. And now we talk about alternate cropping in Kaveri Delta. As far as an agronomist, my opinion is no alternate cropping in Kaveri Delta is possible. It can only be rice followed by black gram or green gram as a relay crop, as a relay crop without any input. Rice, fallow, black gram or green. That will be the best cropping pattern suited for this plant. But we need to make adjustments according to the climate change in terms of fluctuations in rainfall pattern, water availability, and again water use I was talking. That is why the department has introduced a particular pattern of going for fish culture along with transplanted rice, because transplanted rice has always standing water. So these are all certain things, and sustainability I thought, because when we went for fish culture and along with poultry rearing in rice, more of an organic mode, because when we go for 2 generations or 2 crops of rice with poultry, then almost 17 tons of poultry waste was added to rice. And in the second year, you don't need to have any fertilizer or pesticide when we go for this rice fish poultry. So that contributes for sustainable agriculture. So these are all certain avenues which we are exploring at, and I always invite all the delegates, the scientists here and the student friends to look at, because agriculture is a field where transfer of technology is an essential component of research. It's not merely making a finding and then keeping it in the shelves of the laboratory. It should reach the farmer's field, and accordingly, please design all the research problems so that transfer of technology becomes a component and we get the technology. May not be within 3 years of a PhD or doctoral research, but maybe with a funded research, continuous, the guides, the supervisors can have the initial seed from this PhD research, and then they can develop the seed into a plant with a sponsored program or with any other supported program, so that at least within 6-7 years, something which is usable by the end user comes out of the research. So these type of conferences, seminars should result in such good findings which will be of benefit to the farmers In that way, this is a good topic, that is climate change, biodiversity and sustainable agriculture. I wish the organizers and the delegates a grand success, come out with good findings and be of significance in the field of agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time to list the book of abstract. We request our revered Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University to list the book of abstract. And the chief guest, A.S. Marimuthu, Conservator of Forest, to receive the first copy, and the dignitaries on the dais to receive the subsequent copies.
Sir, sir, wait பண்ணு sir. Sir, wait பண்ணு. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We are now happy to introduce our chief guest, Mr. A.S. Marimuthu, graduated from TNAU Kilikulam campus during 1996 to 2000. In 2001, he joined as Assistant Conservator of Forest and got elevated to IFS during 2007. He served as Associate Conservator in Forest in Tirunelveli, Nilgiris and Vandalur Zoo, and as Divisional Forest Officer of Shivagangai, Dindigul, Madurai, Theni. Presently working as Conservator of Forest at Viluppuram Circle, which has jurisdiction over Viluppuram, Kadalur and Kallakurichi district forest areas. We now request our chief guest, Mr. A.S. Marimuthu, IFS, Conservator of Forest, Viluppuram Circle, to deliver the special address.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellor sir and other dignitaries on the dais and all the learned participants and media people. It is very difficult to address in this learned forum because already Vice Chancellor sir explained in very detail about this biodiversity, this climate change and even the sustainable agriculture. Though I came from the agriculture background, but somewhere in between I served in the field of organic farming for 5 years. Then I switched over to this forest department during 2001. Then I elevated into different level and I served in various parts of our state. But if we see the history of, because I would like to say few points about the forestry in our country. If we see that Indian forest, it was first during 1806, the medical officer, his name was Dr. Watson. He was appointed as a conservator of forest for the Malabar region of our country during 1806. He was oversaw the timber operation in that Malabar belt. Then in 1847, one Mr. Gibson, he was appointed as a conservator of forest for the Bombay presidency. In 1856, one Mr. Gluggan was appointed as a conservator of forest for our Madras presidency. All these three officers were medical field officers. Those time they were the in charge for the forestry and other allied activities, which includes agriculture. So during 1860, the Dietrich Brandis, who was originally the German botanist, he was appointed by the British government during 1860 as a first Inspector General of Forest for the entire country to look after the forestry activities in our British controlled region. Then subsequently it starts. Because as we all know, all our cultivable agriculture crop varieties are the derivatives of the wild varieties. So our still, as per Vice Chancellor sir address and Madam I agree Dean address, all our native original wild giant blossoms are available or present in the forest areas only. So to protect this prestigious forest, this thing during British period itself, first in our India during 1882 itself, in the Madras Presidency, Madras Forest Act was enacted. Then following the provisions available in that act, then wherever that the government land which has the richness in the point of flora and fauna were brought as a reserve forest, following the procedures laid down in the 1882 Madras Forest Act. Then subsequently 1927 the Indian Forest Act was enacted for the whole India. Then subsequently to protect the fauna, mean the wild animals, in 1972 the Wildlife Protection Act was enacted. Then subsequently during 1980, just to prevent the diversion of forest land for non-forestry purpose, 1980 Indian Forest Conservation Act was enacted. Then subsequently just to prevent to other contamination in the air, water and these things, then in 1986 this Environmental Protection Act was enacted. Then subsequently 2002 Biodiversity Act was enacted. Then 2006 the Forest Dwellers Act was enacted. All these acts are timely brought by our Government of India just to protect our natural resources. Based on the provisions available in the Biodiversity Act 2002, National Biodiversity Board was established at Chennai as a national headquarters. From there, in every state, in the State Biodiversity Board was established with one senior IFS officer as the board director or some renowned scientist from any of the agriculture allied field. So from that provisions available in the Biodiversity Act, in every, now in Tamil Nadu also for every hamlet, that people biodiversity register is opened. In that all the scientists, all the scientific communities are involved to register, just like Madam told, because in everywhere in wild also some important species are there. In the even our within this wild, the cattle, our domestic, some locally available these things are there. So it should not be vanished. Just to protect these things, we have in Tamil Nadu we started that people biodiversity register. So this initiative effort in our Tamil Nadu Forest Department to address this climate change, recently the government has brought 3 missions, that is climate change mission, wetland mission, then massive tree planting mission. So similar, so many activities are undertaken. So I am not expert to talk about this biodiversity, this climate change, but I can share about one video clip I have brought, which is developed by our own department. If time permits, I will share. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time to honor one of our keynote speakers. We now invite Dr. D. Velmurugan, Associating Scientist, CNFSA and Conference Coordinator, to honor our keynote speaker, Dr. S. Tirumeni, Professor and Head, Department of Genetics and Plant Breeding, Bajankova and Arai Karika.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. If thanking is an art, then our center would be the Picasso of it. We request our Dr. S. Godandaraman, Associating Scientist, CNFSA and Conference Coordinator to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good morning to one and all present here. As we all know, thank you is a very small word to thank our this conference. My illimitable thanks goes to our dean, who is always a kind of solid supporting system for us. So she has associated with herself with many of the events that we have done in the previous times. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your unstinted support. And I extend my sincere thanks to our chief guests and the two keynote speakers. Thank you, sirs, for amidst your busy schedule, you're here, and for your gracious presence. Thank you. My special thanks to the Controller of Examiner and IQSC Director, and I offer my sincere thanks to deans of various faculties for your valuable presence, and my unabated thanks are due to the directors and deputy directors of various directorates and centers. I am immensely thankful to all the heads of various departments for your gracious presence. I am grateful to all the delegates who have flown from different parts of the country for this conference. Thank you for your contributions, time, and putting with us for our emails, spamming and all. And I can't say that we will not haunt you hereafter, because again the process is going. We have a special issue coming, so please bear with us. And my special mention to our faculties, colleagues, PRO and PSVC, Vice Chancellor. And I, on a personal note, I'm indebted to our Director, CNFSA, and the teammates, the associating scientists who are earning both sides of the candle for the past 1 week for making this occasion. And last but not least, I wanted to thank the PhD scholars and researchers who were toiling and moiling, and who you are the real unsung heroes of this grand occasion. Thank you guys. Without you, I can't imagine this international seminar. So lastly, I would like to pray and seek the blessings of Lord Nataraja, who the cosmic dancer of this town, to bless us for this grand success of this conference. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.